So we can
Thanks,
start,
Emily.
Etienne. We can start, Etienne.
Starting now.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua.
Good afternoon and may peace be upon all of us. Let us praise to the God Almighty. Because of His blessings, we can gather in the webinar of launching of energy efficiency indicator webinar for Indonesia. This event is organized in cooperation between Ministry of ESDM and International Energy Agency. I am very happy, Dianuri, to meet all of you to become your MC in this webinar, July 26, 2021. Before we start, I would like to welcome Ibu Lu Nyoman Puspa Dewi. Good afternoon, Ibu Dewi.
Good morning, Miss Melanie Slade from IEA. Good morning and good afternoon from Indonesia, Miss Roberta Quadrelli and Mr. Matthew Prin from IEA. Selamat siang juga saya ucapkan kepada Bapak Ibu.
Good afternoon. Also, I would like to welcome all of the panelists, representatives from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and all distinguished attendees of this webinar. Before we go straight to the core of the agenda, allow me to share the overview of our webinar this afternoon. This webinar is organized to introduce the energy efficiency indicator online course for Indonesia, whereas there are two online courses. First, the energy efficiency indicator, the statistical fundamentals, and efficiency energy indicators, fundamentals for decision making. This webinar will introduce the energy efficiency indicators and how important data collection is, and to develop the energy efficiency indicators. Also explain how the indicators can be used to measure the energy efficiency policy and the multi-benefit obtained. We also will discuss the role of indicators in developing policy from different perspectives through a panel discussion. The webinar today will run for 2 hours. We will listen remarks from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources and IEA, followed by presentation by IEA, and there will be panel discussion that will present a representative from 5 relevant ministries that will discuss the energy efficiency data from different perspectives. This webinar can be heard in Indonesian language and English language. To listen to your preferred language, you can click the interpretation icon that you can find on your bottom right of your screen, and then select the preferred language, whether English, Indonesian, or off if you do not require interpretation. All distinguished participants, we really hope your active participation by writing down your question and comments using the chat feature that is available on your bottom right of your screen. Also use raise hand feature by clicking the reactions button. So that conclude the information and the guidelines on how this webinar will be run. To start this webinar, let's welcome the Director of Energy Conservation from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Lu Nyoman Puspadewi. The screen is yours. Thank you so much, Ibu Lori. The Honorable Ms. Melanie Slade, Senior Program Manager, International Energy Agency, all of the distinguished resource person and panelists, Ms. Roberta Quadrelli, Head of Section for Energy Data Center in an International Energy Agency, Mr. Matthew Prin, Program Coordinator from International Energy Agency, Mr. Agus Cahyono Adi, the Head of Information Data from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Mr. Hendro Martono, the Head of Green Industry from Ministry of Industry, Mr. Sigit Irfansyah, the Head of Sustainable Transportation Management from the Ministry of Transport, Ibu Ms. Dian Irawati, the Director of Housing and Settlement from the Ministry of Public Works and Public Housing, Mr. Fabi Tumiwa, Executive Director from ISR, all of the invitees, greetings. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, greetings of wisdom. Good afternoon and may peace be upon all of us. Let us praise to the God Almighty for His blessings that we today receive the opportunity to join in the webinar, the launching of online courses of the energy efficiency indicators for Indonesia. This webinar is organized in conjunction between International Energy Agency and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. In this webinar, we will have experts from the International Energy Agency that will explain how important to use the energy efficiency indicators in developing policy. During the discussion session, the panelists that come from Indonesian government representative will provide perspective about the status and challenges faced in collecting energy efficiency data from different sectors. Several information about this energy efficiency indicator online course that we can share. The energy efficiency indicator data is the key element to design and to trace and to improve policy and energy efficiency program to provide enough resources to develop and to collect energy efficiency data is very crucial. Nonetheless, to collect the energy efficiency data is not easy. With regard to this matter, International Energy Agency has developed 2 online courses for the policymaker to develop energy efficiency indicators. The first one, courses about the statistic fundamentals, and the second about the fundamentals to create policy. Every course will comprise of 4 sectors: household, service sector, industry sector, and transportation sector, and require 10 hours to complete each of the courses. This course can be taken at any time independently without need to have moderator for. If you have completed the course, you will receive a certificate. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to achieve the national energy target and to reduce emission reduction in energy sector, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources have implemented several energy conservation program to push energy saving program, especially in industry and building, applying label and minimum energy or SCAM for household electrical utilities to develop financing scheme for energy efficiency project to campaign raising awareness in the community for energy efficiency by giving out award for energy saving competition, and also to revise the presidential regulation number 70 year 2009 on energy conservation to fast track to accelerate the energy efficiency target achievement or to reduce the energy emission. To accelerate the energy conservation program, we having cooperation with international organization like International Energy Agency is an independent institution that the member comprised of OECD members, 29 member states, and several associate members, including Indonesia. IEA, we see IEA is very strong in developing policy, data analysis, especially in energy sector. Several energy efficiency cooperation program this year is first, modeling and developing the energy conservation roadmap in land transport. Second, developing the roadmap for low carbon building and construction in ASEAN member state, and developing the energy efficiency benchmarking for building sector and transportation sector. One of the activity is the online course of energy efficiency indicators for Indonesia that we are undergoing now, and also developing the energy efficiency application or synergy that was launched June 17, 2021. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the end, I would like to thank International Energy Agency for supporting the energy conservation program. I also would like to thank all of the panelists and the webinar participants attending this webinar. I hope the webinar can run smoothly. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and greetings. Thank you so much, Ibu Dewi, for the warm remarks. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Melanie Slade, Senior Program Manager, IEA, to deliver the welcoming speech. Ms. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a real privilege to be here among you all. I'd just like to add my thanks to Ibu Devi for the strong collaboration that we have with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources on energy efficiency, and to say how an important part of that this course is. As Ibu Devi said, the idea is that we need to accelerate progress on energy efficiency, and this is worldwide. And of course, we want to make sure that Indonesia benefits from everything that energy efficiency can bring as well, and have mechanisms for tracking progress and prioritizing new policies. And this is really important, of course, when the presidential decree is being reviewed as well. So what we need for all of that is better data. And as we all know, that's a challenge. But if we can create a community of practice amongst the people who have data, who collect data, who have a need to understand how energy efficiency is progressing, all of the different bodies around Indonesia who have a contribution or an interest in this, if everybody's working together, then we can face that challenge much more effectively. And of course, this is going to be really important to all of the sectors, as Ibu Dewi says. I'm going to leave it there. I look forward to really listening to the conversation today, and hope that everybody gets a great deal out of this course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Melanie. Okay, next, I would like to welcome Ms. Roberta Quadrelli, the head of sections of Energy Data Center at the IEA, to give a presentation on the importance of energy efficiency indicators for statistics and public policy. Ms. Roberta, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Now, is this
okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Clearly, I'm very happy to be here today and discuss energy efficiency and data and the support that the International Energy Agency can provide, of course, to you in this area. And before presenting the frameworks on data and indicators, I just want to remind why we think we need to invest resources to find the appropriate indicators and to collect the underlying data if you want to be successful with our energy efficiency policies across sectors. So really we need to think of data as a central part of what we call the policy cycle. So from the data that are needed to inform the policy design to the data that will help us to monitor implementation during the policy and then evaluate the impacts. So what changes my policies has brought? Is it good? Do we need to change it in the future? So this is a real cycle. And we need to think that this cycle applies for every policy, from a very specific measure, for example, setting the standards for a specific type of equipment, to a very high-level economy-wide objective. We always need appropriate data before, during, and after. And speaking about high-level economy-wide objectives, for example, I'm thinking of energy efficiency as a whole. We know that will bring around 1/3 of the emissions savings coming from the energy sector that will allow us to meet, for example, climate objectives. So this is a very high level target, but what does that mean in terms of sectors and uses, where these opportunities are? I think we need to understand better and see more granular with data on that. This is true at the country level, but let's move globally. For example, the IEA recently released this net zero by 2050 report, and clearly energy efficiency is highlighted as a great opportunity. A massive scale up of efficiency solutions is expected. We need to really move across all the sectors, buildings, transport, industry, and improve the efficiency rate, the progress. But to do this, of course, even globally, as we did nationally, I think we need to really find the appropriate metrics. You see some examples in this figure. We need to understand the intensities, for example, of industrial productions. This is an example from iron or chemical. We need to understand the fuel economies for trucks. We need to understand appliances unit consumption. So there is really a huge set of indicators that will help us really following the progress of energy efficiency over time, nationally and globally. So we may think that collecting information is costly or takes too much time. And I want to share some experience of one of our members that was recently shared at a workshop. This is a graph showing electricity demand over time in black, but it also shows the projections of demand in dashed every year, like in 2004, 2010, etc. The projections were made at that time without knowing anything on the demand side, without tracking the demand side data. And these were just made following expected growth, for example, in the GDP or in population. So growth expected. As a matter of fact, the growth in demand didn't follow. And so there were patterns that the country was not able to monitor because of the lack of a system to track energy demand. So this is not only incorrect, but really brought a huge waste of money, a huge investment for infrastructure that was not needed really, or so very poor planning. It's very costly. It's only at the end that you see the projections were made after changing the system of track and demand, and they are much more realistic. So I think this is very striking to show us that the cost of not having data is much higher than the cost of, collecting relevant information, at least where we know we have priorities. So we underline the importance of demand side trends, understanding that better. What does that mean, in practically speaking? And here we are moving to the conceptual framework of data and indicators. The first thing clearly is understanding where the final consumption of energy is. This is for Indonesia, is what we have in our own energy balances based on the country's data. So what we see, important sector, industry, road transport, residential, for example. So this is overall how we think the final consumption is going. But is this information enough really to understand where the efficiency opportunities are and where, what type of policies we need to put in place? Well, I think we would need to know a little bit more. We need to know in industry what type of subsectors are driving this consumption, what type of activities are happening behind, like are we producing what type of goods and how much of those. In road, we would like to know if it is passenger, if it is freight, if it is different type of vehicles and how much passenger or goods are moved across the countries. In residential, equally, we would like to understand how much is the consumption for appliances, for example, or for cooking, how the population trends are, how the dwellings are built, etc. So there is a set of information around that will help us to better identify the demand trends and the opportunities for our energy efficiency policies. And that's why we are encouraging, at least for the priority sectors, to look at really end uses. So these are the real drivers in each sector. On the left, you see for the residential consumption, this is an example of one of our members. You see clearly that the dominant energy end use was space heating. And therefore, here I need to be very sure that my policies, for example, on buildings, insulation are up to the state of the art if I want to control the energy use and improve its effectiveness. Equally on the right, we see emissions, so link once again to climate objectives in the United States. If I put all my end uses together, I rank them, you see that passenger cars, for example, are the dominant end use for the country. So here we are starting to look at with the energy, but also equally with the activities at the end use level. And this is important to understand the structure of my sectoral consumption. And still, we also need the next step to track energy efficiency. So once we have a picture of all the end uses, it's clear that if my activity is increasing, for example, I'm increasing the number of dwellings, I'm increasing the appliances owned by the population or the surface of dwelling, I'm increasing the amount of goods that are shipped across the country. So this is normal increase of activity. It's expected that there is a sort of increase of energy use. So the idea of indicators is to decouple the energy trend from the activity trend. So normalize energy end use, divided activity at the end use level, and define appropriate intensities for each of these end uses. For example, space cooling per floor area is one typical energy efficiency indicator. That means even if I increase my floor area because the buildings are increasing, I want to check how much energy to cool a given surface of a floor, of a house I'm using. So this is the key concept to track energy efficiency progress. I expect a reduction in these type of end use intensities. I'm giving some examples here from across our members' data. These are examples of intensities in 2000 and 2019 for 2 countries, both in space heating and in lighting, and both are normalized per floor area. So overall, the space heating energy use may have increased, but I am sure here that when I look at this indicator, the efficiency per floor area has improved, so decrease in energy intensity for both end uses. And this is true for every sector. In every sector, you can identify the key end uses and the key activities that go with them, and define intensity matrix. Example for transport, so also from our data. On the left, we are looking at passenger transport. On the left, for 2 countries, we are looking at the activities. This, in this case, means what type of transports are dominating overall the sector. You see, the structures are very different, and I need to understand the structure of my sectors. In one case, I have passenger cars that are dominating the activity. In the other case, for Korea, I have also very important rail and buses in the structure of the sector. And on the right, I'm looking at the intensities. So for all these different modes, different colors, and for both countries, for example, I can see that passenger cars have higher intensity than rail. That means I am using more energy to move my passenger around the distances in the country. So this is the key intensity metric for passenger transport. So these are all elements that we want to introduce to get a good understanding of our different sectors of final consumption. And it's only after discussing structure, activity, and efficiency that all in all, I'm able also to give an assessment of our energy efficiency trends at the country level. This is an example from the United Kingdom. So what we see here is in yellow, orange, the energy trend. These are normalized, of course, but it's an energy trend over 18 years. And we see all in all around a 20% reduction. But equally in the economy, I see an activity in blue increasing. So in this case, I've been able to decouple the increase of activity because GDP has grown, because the number of people has grown, and the, for example, number of houses or surface may have been growing. So activity has increased, but my energy use has decreased thanks to very important energy efficiency trend, which is the greenish line. So this has brought my energy use down. And here I also see a component of structural change as well. So I may have moved the economy to slightly less intensive sector with this. So this was just to give you an example that energy efficiency progress is measured independently of my changes in activity and changes of structure of the economy. So this was a very quick overview given the time today, just to give you the flavor of these topics. All the detailed information is available in our manuals, which is at the basis of the online platform. And of course, just reminding all of you that the IEA has a strong data collection activity in this area. More and more countries actually are coming to us to discuss data, share the information they have, and maybe improve some parts of that, even looking at what experience they have already and what type of information may already be available. And so we are certainly looking forward to exploring areas for collaborations also with you in this overall domain of end-use data and indicators for energy efficiency. So thank you very much. This was my contribution to the event, and very, very happy to also hear the follow-up today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberta, for a great presentation. Okay, next, I would like to welcome Mr. Matthew Prin, who will give an overview on the energy efficiency indicators online courses. Mr. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew Prin. I'm a program coordinator of the Energy Efficiency in Emerging Economies program here at the IEA. And in this position, I oversee the online courses of the Energy Efficiency Division. So if I could have the next slide, please. So in the past 2 years, the IEA has been launching and expanding its online training offer with all our online training courses on one platform, or elearning.iea.org platform, which currently has 4 online courses. So it has 2 courses on energy efficiency indicators, which I will talk to you about in more details now. It's got 1 major 40-hour course on energy efficiency in building. It's a cross-disciplinary course designed for participants to acquire a solid understanding of the big picture and tools to contribute to advancing energy efficiency in buildings. And I highly recommend you look into it as well if you're interested in this topic. And we recently uploaded it on our online platform. And we've got 1 course on sustainable energy policies for smart cities. It's a course that helps answer the question, how can urban systems be made more energy efficient through clean energy policies? And this course is adapted from Singapore Regional Training Program. We did a virtual event we did last year in September. If I could have the next slide, please. So we've got 2 courses on energy efficiency indicators. We've got 1, Fundamentals and Statistics, and the other, Essentials for Policymaking. So they're available in several languages, but most important to you, these 2 courses are available in Bahasa Indonesia. They're adapted from 2 IEA energy efficiency indicators manuals that were published in 2014 that Roberta just mentioned. And so the e-learning course, Energy Efficiency Indicators, Fundamental and Statistic, is primarily aimed at energy statisticians and analysts working at national, subnational, in a local statistical bureau. And the course is recommended for statistical officers in developing and emerging countries where improved energy efficiency is a national priority. But other individuals engaged in the process of collecting, of an analysis and dissemination of data are also invited to complete the course. So people like researchers, academics, civil society representative, environmental managers. And the second course, the e-learning course, Energy Efficiency Indicators, Essentials for Policymaking, is geared primarily towards high and mid-level policymakers. As energy efficiency is a cross-cutting issue, officers from different government agencies may benefit from this training. So not only from the Energy Ministry, but also from ministries of economy, industry, infrastructure, transport, building and construction. You'll see in a minute that the course covers energy efficiency for different sectors. So a variety of government agencies will be concerned. If I could have the next slide, please. So in terms of what the courses cover, so it starts with a module, why indicators, a methodological framework, which looks at key concept and kind of present the IEA methodological framework for identifying and developing disaggregated energy efficiency indicators for effective policies. And then this module takes the participants through the kind of main principle and challenges for effective policy making based on approaches and methods to data collection and the development of energy efficiency indicators. And then you've got 4 modules, each one looking at a specific sector. You've got the residential sector, services sector, industry sectors, transport sectors. And so in each one of these modules, you've got an overview of energy consumption in each of the sector. You look at relevant energy efficiency indicators for each sector, approaches to data collection, and interpretation and dissemination for each one of the sector. So after completing the course, participants will be able to, if I could have the next slide, please. So after completing the e-learning course, Energy Efficiency Indicators, Fundamental and Statistic, participants will be able to identify the set of indicators that can be developed across sectors, as well as data required. They'll be able to clarify the role of detailed data collection for effective energy efficiency indicators and policies. They'll be able to explain the process of formulating disaggregated energy efficiency indicators, and that is applying the International Energy Agency's methodology. They'll be able to define available approaches for energy efficiency surveying, metering, and modeling in each of the sector covered by the module that I just mentioned. And they'll be able to discuss the setup of a data collection program for energy efficiency indicators in all these sectors. And for the course, Essentials for Policymaking, after completing this course, participants will be able to explain the importance of data for effective energy efficiency policies. They'll be able to discuss the role of those indicators for prioritizing sector-specific energy efficiency policies. And they'll be able to identify suitable energy efficiency policies in key sectors based on available data and indicators. So if I could have the next slide, please. So the format of the course. So the course is based on the MOOC model, which means it is a free, open, and massive online course. And once you've registered, the course is available 24/7. And what's really important to remember is that it's self-paced. So you can take as long as you want to complete the course. It takes about 10 hours to complete it. Usually students take approximately 2 to 4 weeks, but some might be able to finish it in 1 week and some might take a month to do so. In terms of the content of the classes are made out of videos, you've got some readings, you've got some slides, you've got some discussion fora where you can reflect on your own experience, and you've got one evaluation per module. Importantly, you've got a discussion forum, LinkedIn group, the International Energy Agency, Energy Efficiency Policy in Emerging Economies LinkedIn group. And this is really important because this is, by joining this group, you'll be able to join a community of practice and to join a community of International Energy Agency alumni, so to speak. And you'll be able to use this LinkedIn group to ask some questions, but also to have access to some of our latest information about our latest events, about some of the research we are doing. So it's very important for you to join this LinkedIn group. And then we've got a help desk that's very reactive. Usually you'll be able to, if you've got any problem, any technical problem with the course, if you ask a question, if you use the help desk to ask a question, you usually be able to get an answer within 24 hours. And so to successfully complete the course, participants need to pass all 5 module assessment tests with a minimum score of 70%. And if you fail a module test, you can take it again as many times as you wish to do so until you succeed. And to successfully complete the course and receive the certificate, you will also need to make a minimum of 2 contributions to the discussion forum. You will need to complete the course evaluation survey, and participants who successfully complete the course will receive an IES certificate, which can be linked to the LinkedIn profile. So if I could have the next slide, please. So that's it. So we really hope that you'll enjoy taking these courses, which we are very proud of and which are available to you all freely on our e-learning platform. Like the link is on the screen, elearning.iea.org. So yeah, hope you enjoyed them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew Brain, for an excellent presentation. Hadirin yang berbahagia, segera kita akan
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue to the panel discussion with the theme Data Efficiency Energy of Indonesia, Challenges and Progress, which will be guided by Mr. Fabi Tumiwa. Mr. Fabi Tumiwa, please introduce the panelists and start the panel discussion. Thank you, Mr. Dian. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Peace be upon us. We are now starting the panel discussion about the availability of data. And for this, I am already with 5 panelists from a number of line ministries that are related to data of energy efficiency, which will be a course and which we are currently discussing right now. First one, present here with us, these are my old friends, Mr. Agus Cahyono Adi, head of the Information Data Center from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. I hope you're in good health, sir. Thank God, yes, I am. And the next one, also present with us, this is also an old friend in efficiency energy. I have here Ms. Devi Laxmi. She's the group coordinator of energy conservation in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Good afternoon, Ms. Effie. Good afternoon, Ms. Fabi. It's been a while that we haven't seen each other. It's always been online, right? I'm glad to see you again. And also present with us, representing the green industry of the Ministry of Industry, Mr. Ahmad Taufik. Good afternoon, Mr. Ahmad Taufik. Good afternoon. You will have another event, right? Yeah, that's right. And also present with us, Mr. Sigit Irfansyah, head of the Sustainable Transportation Management from the Ministry of Transport. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Can you hear my voice? Yes. And also the last one, Mr. Wahyu Sujatmiko, from the Ministry of Public Work and Public Housing. Good afternoon, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the panelists who will be presenting to us for the discussion. For the panelists, I would like to request you to give a very brief and clear presentation. You will be given 7 minutes, so we will have more time for Q&A. I will also invite all the participants to ask their questions or to put their questions in the chat box so that the discussion will be more interactive. We have at least less than an hour now, so we will end around 3:10 for this discussion, and then we'll move on to the next session. I will give the first session to Mr. Acha. Thank you, Mr. Fabi. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform you how we, the Center for Information and Technology Data, collect data and manage this data on efficiency energy. And related to this, we cannot present in detail yet, my apologies, but what we do, we collect data from all sectors of energy, from all units, and then we evaluate it, and we made the statistics, and we submitted to our supervisors to read these indicators. Some read it daily, some monthly, some yearly. Next slide, please. We in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, normally Pusdaten is center of data and information, but our information is separated in the Bureau of Information. So we process the data and manage the data and strategic study for the energy and mineral resources. What we do here, we do a coordination from all the data resources from each unit, and for all the business using the energy, both for production and management. But in the use, what we do is from the supply side. So how much energy is supplied, which will be sold to the users. So in the sense of conservation, for the details, Ibu Devi will present more. And also from the Ministry of Transportation and Public Works will explain more. So that's what we do. So especially available from I is very interesting to complement us. For the detail for each business, each buildings, and also each industry, it's quite challenging for us to do. So the survey data and the reports of business relating to the use of energy, we use it as an indicator. We use it as indicators, but nationwide, we will leave the trend of the use of energy in total, both primary and secondary. So what we do, we discuss how the category of the data, the classification, so that each unit will have the same data, so we can do a better compilation and implement the quantity assurance, not only quality assurance. How we can collect data so that the data can be convincing, because we also handle extractive industry. So we explain about how much is the quantity of the production and the statistics of the resources, and we will be responsible of the use of this. And Pusdatin, or Center Data Information Technology, we also collect data based on national history and support the management of data, starting from collecting and including categorizing. Next. Our products, monthly, we issue a strategic data related to energy and mineral resources. We distribute this, or we disseminate this internally for decision makers. And we join in the presenting data of Jodi Oil, oil and gas, and also to APEC and IEA, and a tiered method. And yearly, we issued HASI publication, Handbook of Energy and Economic Statistics Indonesia, and we've just recently launched for 2020. And we will publish this. You can see it in our website, where we have presented several indicators. We also presented the latest information in our website below. If you scroll down, you have latest information on the energy and mineral resources, our production, our receivables, and the progress that we have. And we also will provide you special information for the condition of our resources. So we have our basic map, which we can present starting from location of the light resources, and then the location of the plant. And we also have the available network. And we also provide the geospatial map. We have 17 maps, which are in line with the national map. So we are integrated with our country's map for the spatial planning. Next. My apologies. This is an example in the Handbook of Economy. We present the energy indicator, which was presented by Ibu Roberta. You see below, the example is the primary energy supply and primary energy per capita and consumption. So you can see there from the table at the top, that's the final energy consumption. If you see the trend from each year, the increase is not significant. And in the year 2020, there's quite a heavy strain from the previous one, 98.7, and it becomes to 84.5. So it's reduced. And the per capita energy, it shows this is what shows is one of the indicators that globally and nationally can be available. Next slide, please. And if we see one of the indicators, the intensity of the consumption of the final energy per capita. So we're still in the development process. So from IA, maybe can explain that for the developing countries, where the accessibility of energy is continuously developing, as we know that the spread of the use of commercial energy available in Indonesia is still not balanced. So the use of energy per capita tends to rise, tends to increase because the accessibility increased, and there's also the growth of the industrial sector. But 2020 is excluded due to COVID and the pandemic. The reduction is quite drastic. So from 3.53 to 3.12. So this is an example of the national indicators. And we'll coordinate with the public works on the use of energy in buildings and industry on the intensity of energy use in the industry. We will use it as an indicator. And we are convinced that the intensity and elasticity of the use of energy in the future would be better and be reduced compared to the economic growth. So to come up with a value added, so the energy has to be lower. So that's my presentation as a start for this discussion. So, and we hope that our colleagues who attended this course can support us and help us in data collection of efficiency, of a better efficiency energy. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Acha, who have presented of what's done by Pusdatin. Before I give the opportunity to Ms. Devi, there's one question, Mr. Acha. You mentioned that HESI, I'm a big fan of HESI because I use a lot of HESI data every year. Mr. Aja, you mentioned that if I look at HESI's data today, so it's very much energy oriented. So those are data that are the responsibility of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. But it has not combined the data with other ministries. In your presentation, you mentioned that you do a collaboration with other ministries to get more detailed data. May I know how far your effort to consolidate those data from other sectoral ministries? Thank you, Mr. Fabi. This is something that will be presented by Ibu Devi. So we coordinate the units with the energy managers in all industry. And we also coordinate. We also use the statistics, national statistics data. So at the back, we have the national consumption by sectoral. But it's not an approach. We calculate how much is the consumption of each sector, and our approach with the spread. So how much is the sales of the industrial energy to transportation and commercial. So we coordinate each unit for energy conservation. We rely the data from the IBTKI, from Ibu Dewi, and conducted by Ibu Evi. Thank you, Mr. Acha. I will then move on to Ibu Devi. Ibu Devi, the floor is yours for you to give your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Fabi. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, peace be upon us. Good afternoon and good morning. As mentioned by our director of the energy conservation in her opening remark, that the data to formulate the efficiency energy is the key element in designing, tracing, and improving the policy and program of energy conservation. So this data is the center or the upstream of the planning, which is managed and become a support in the formulation of policy and program for energy conservation that is exact. So we can avoid the energy data management, that is garbage in and garbage out. Before I discuss about the efficiency data, I would like to explain the role of the Directorate of Energy Conservation by looking at duties and function. That is in the article 132 to 133 in the regulation of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources about the organization and work management of the Ministry of ESDM. Formulating and implementing the policy, formulating norms, standard, procedures, and criteria, providing guidance, technical and supervision, evaluation and control and supervising. And for the scope of the energy conservation, based on article number 30 on 2007 on energy conservation is done on all levels of the management of energy. So from the provision of energy and the use of energy. In the provision of energy is available in the sector of ESDM in power plant, refinery, and mining. And in the use of energy covers transportation, industry, households, and buildings. So ladies and gentlemen, the energy conservation activity is across sectoral. And this is a challenge in data collection. The stakeholders are spread in all sectors And there's the authorized ministries as the regulator, and there's also the local government. Next, please. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the mandate on the government regulation number 79 on 2014 on the national energy policy, since apart from the role that is very small for the primary energy, the conservation of energy, we also have a target, that is the reduction of the intensity of final energy 1% per year up to 2025, and the reduction of energy consumption of 17% from business as usual in the year 2025, which is included in the general plan of the national energy, which is a derivatives of the PPN of the Presidential Regulation number 22 of 2017. In the attachment, the energy conservation is a support policy, and it's included the duties of the each line energy as the implementation of energy, like such as the Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Industry and other ministries. And how to achieve this target? We do our main conservation energy program, that is the implementation of energy management, implementation of the minimum energy or scheme, and using energy, which is normally used in household, especially in the buildings and industry, and the implementation of technology and conservation energy, improvement of investment and efficiency of energy. This also involve the technical line ministries and also the FSA. Improvement of the awareness and appreciation to energy efficiency. And the achievement for the energy saving in the year 2020 is 63.8 million SPM, or 6.4% towards business as usual in the year 2020. This saving comes from the implementation of energy management in the industrial sector and the energy and mineral resources, which reported the implementation of management, which is submitted online, known as POME, which submit the reports is submitted by the companies which consumes more energy or equal to 6,000 per barrel, equivalent per barrel. Ladies and gentlemen,
di sini berkaitan dengan indikator efisiensi energi yang
this is the indicators of efficiency energy,
Bapak Ibu yang sedang kami bangun di
which we built in the Conservation Energy Directorate. If you see the indicator of efficiency of energy can be built in all levels. The more detailed the indicators that we formulate, we can get the overview of the efficiency energy to do an intervention of the policy. But of course, the type of the level of indicator of efficiency energy that we can build depends on the availability of data, as seen in the pyramids of indicators of efficiency energy that was initiated by IEA. From the study of IEA, there are 3 levels of indicators which can be built. This level indicator 1 is the indicator that is the easiest to be formulated. That is the total consumption of final energy per GDP, and the data is available from the statistics of national energy. But the weakness that this indicator cannot give deep information about the main driver that uses the energy consumption, which can support us to do an analysis of the relevant policy to do an intervention in reducing the energy consumption. Next, in the detailed level, that is in level 2 and 3, there's a disaggregated indicators. Those are the indicators built in the level of sectors and subsectorals, and the end use and indicator of per process or per equipment. which can give an overview of the measurement of the efficiency, better efficiency energy to do an intervention to the policy. Ideally, to do an intervention of policy requires indicator of efficiency energy in the disaggregated level. But the challenges now, most indicators that can be built is only in the level of aggregate at the top. So it requires consumption data collection and the activities data from the sectoral and subsectoral. And on the right, you can see that the indicator of energy efficiency gave an overview on the energy consumption in each activity of the use of sector of the final energy, which can be calculated as an energy consumption divided by the activity units. And then this activity unit will be different for each sector. For example, for the industrial sector is the value add and the total industry. And for the transport is passenger and the ton kilometer or TKM. For transportation of goods. This data collection activity have a specific challenges. The first one is response from the owner of the data or object survey, because this data is spread in various ministries and association and also in companies. And also related to the confidentiality and the condition of the data. The data in general is in the level of aggregate, not continued data, not complete data or outlier, and the validity and reliability of the data. The available data mostly ideally are the efficiency indicator energy is built in a more detailed level, but the available data are more in the sectoral level. For example, for industry, it would be better if the indicator can be built per type of the product, and for transport, maybe it can be separated per mode and segments of the passengers and goods. And the data required by the Directorate of Energy Conservation is required for the formulation of regulation. And we are now doing a revision of the present regulation of 2009 on energy conservation. So in the draft of the new regulation, there's a mandatory threshold for the energy management in the supply and the end use. So in the end use can covers the sectors of transportation, industry, and buildings. And for the determination of the level of the efficiency of equipments for the implementing of SCAM and the label of energy saving in the sectors of buildings and industry. Also, for the evaluation of the achievement towards the target that is determined in our Renstra, that is to calculate the energy saving, the final energy, and the reduction of gas house emission. So that is my presentation. Thank you. I return it back to you, Mr. Fabi. Thank you, Ms. Devi, for your presentation. So it was already presented that we have challenges related to the collection data for the efficiency energy. And there was also presented there are several processes and there are 3 levels. If we see for the use of energy, so there's the commercial, industry, and household. For industry, that's for the one above 6,000 TOE, there's the manager. So we expect that there's data there. For the use of other energy, such as commercial and industry, that is not included for the 6,000 TOE, how can you collect those data? For the one below 6,000 TOE, since apart from the one that we received from POME, we also got it from survey. So in the year 2009, 2019 and 2020 and 2021, we do a survey in commercial buildings to know the intensity of the energy consumption for commercial buildings. So we differentiate all the type of buildings like hotels, what do you call it? Office and malls and hospitals. So that's our separation. So you do it from a survey. And the others, for the need of the formulation of scam and the labels, especially for the scam, we also do a market survey. So for the formulation of scam and electronic device and household appliance, so through a survey. Yes, market survey, and also to the related importers, manufacturers. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Devi. And we will discuss more later. Next, apart from the energy and mineral resources, there's also the use of other energy. There's industry, transportation, buildings. And now we will listen from the industry, Mr. Ahmad Taufik. So how is the efficiency data of the sector? Thank you. Good afternoon. Peace be upon us. My apologies from the head of center because he is still with attending another meeting. We appreciate in the launching of the online training of energy efficiency held by IEA and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so in the previous one, please, previous slide. Okay, thank you. So from the Ministry of Industry, we have a number of initiatives or program at a national level. So we have efficiency of resources, energy, gas house emission, and others. These are the answers from us is the implementation of green products. So there's three key elements. The first one is the improvement of the production efficiency and resources. And then the use of clean energy. And then the last one is the reduction of the greenhouse gas emission, pollution, and waste. In our technical directorate, we do efforts to improve the achievement of energy efficiency in a number of programs. For example, the restructurization of the machineries. So it will be evaluated by the efficiency energy and the increment of the productivity. And we also implement the low carbon product use or environment friendly, and the clinker ratio would be smaller. So the emissions should be lower and the energy consumption is also low. Next. In the Green Industry Center and also with the other directorates and our data information center, we do monitoring to the achievement. And first of all, we do a mapping of the potential of the efficiency energy activity. The strategy that we do is prioritization. So there's 8 sectors that we choose. And the next one, Out of the 8 subsectors, we made a guidance book related to the desertification of energy and management energy, efficiency energy, and the indication of greenhouse gas, EBT, RDF is used, mapping. We already do for several subsectors out of the 8 subsectors. And related to the reporting, we have an online reporting system in the national level. The program is called SINAS. And the data that is the backbone for the reporting is the one in SINAS. The next one is the development of capacity. So it's a reciprocal process. So we also request, but we also give to the industry. So we do a training, workshop, in-house training, and support to the expert of industry. And we do a sharing knowledge forum. We call it Green Talk. So we give information about the techniques of related topics, and then we also request their data. Another thing in our Green Center data, we also give awards where the efficiency energy or the intensity of the use of energy and the number of EBT would be a parameter in the green industry. Next. This is a brief statistics in the National Information System. So the industry that have registered is 28,000. And the industrial area is 141. And others, apart from that, there are some who reported to us. So this data, efficiency of energy in the industrial sector, the first one comes from the SINAS data. So the industry will report to us. The industry will input the data online and then verified by the technical directorate. And then we have the functional data, and there's the new supervisor and these, and then they will make analyst report for the industry resources. And we have also the certification of the green industry. So in the certification, we also present that the standard, that's the intensity of the energy consumption per ton product. And the data, we also verify it not only by the staff and analysis, but also involving practitioners, academicians, and others. And the last one, sorry, he freezes, and from other line ministries that involves another parties, and also support from other support for benchmarking. Next. Okay. This is just an example for the achievement profile data for the year 2019. So we do a profiling for our activities in data collection. We have raw materials for efficiency. This includes efficiency energy. And then we have also the energy rate and CO2 emission reduction. We also have it. So this is just an example. And even like for several industry that is included in the 8 subsector that is intensive energy, they also have data of their intensity. So we call it, there's a specific power consumption and specific thermal consumption. So we know the intensity and the energy of the, next please.
So the challenges of data collection is quite intensive, and the data coming from different technology, from different, and it requires different treatment. And we can collect the data if we perform survey. And what we found usually first, how many metering that hasn't reached the subsystem level or certain equipment. So it's still very generic, the data that being collected, and that's something that we need to address. And reporting itself in our side, we still follow what exists in the industry. So we need to establish the standard template. And with regard to efficiency energy efficiency challenges, that energy efficiency must be integrated with the carbon reduction framework. And energy efficiency also mentioned by IEA presentation, the first one, that energy efficiency can generate employment or green job in industry sector. And the government must simplify the usage of alternative fuel. For example, like in cement industry. And energy efficiency program for the medium small size industry require support from the government, considering how complex the environment is. With regard to achieve a better reporting in terms of quality and quantity, the industry require capacity building. So to improve their skills and knowledge, both in terms of the operator, energy auditor, and so on and so forth. So I think that will be all from my side, Mr. Febi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pak Ahmad Taufik. There was one thing that okay, you have mentioned that there is the SINAS data. If you can inform me, can SINAS be whether SINAS, the industry data, is accessible for public? SINAS has been integrated with OSS, one single window, and all the data of hazardous waste also exists there. So it's not owned by Ministry of Industry, that actually national owned. So to access the SINAS, people have to go through OSS. Well, the industry, they can access the SINAS data. However, because the data submitted, industry must submit the data to SINAS. It should be mandatory, but it has been enforced yet. So if you go to SINAS data, not all field has been filled, and that is our challenge. We will try to improve the completion of the data availability. Well, now the local government also has interest in that database, and we are now in the discussion with the local government. So it is very in the beginning stage then. Now we move to Sigit Firmansyah from the Ministry of Transport. Pak Sigit and Pak Wahyu, we hope the presentation can be shorter, so we have enough time for Q&A because we have kind of short session today. Pak Sigit, over to you. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Febi. Greetings, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. And I only have 3 slides that I would like to present. Now, in Ministry of Transport, in transportation sector is a bit tricky when we talk about data. But Effie, can you please share the slide? Okay. So we can go to the next slide, please. So in here, we can see that in Ministry of Transport, there are 4 modes: road transport, rail transport, sea and air transport. If we talk the easiest one, for rail transport is easy to calculate because we only have 1 operator. Sea transport is relatively easier because most of them are big corporation. We can get data. The same goes with airline data, air transport. We can get data from airlines. Now, what tricky is in the road transport, starting from intercity buses, interprovincial city, urban transport like angkots or paratransit, taxis. So it's very tricky where Ministry of Transport in this regard, we only have licenses related data for inter-province and intercity licenses data. Other than that, all managed by the provincial government. And we only have data for the big route, while the smaller route managed by the provincial or city and district government. So this is where the challenges is. When we talk about number of fleet, we don't have a valid data. When we talk about, if you ask us how many paratransit or angkots that we have, when we ask local government to send us the data, they never send because of the decentralization. They don't feel the urge, the need to send, to share data to us. And therefore, in land transport, we need special method to record the usage, you know, and especially we don't know exactly the end user data of the land transport that managed by the provincial and district government. And that about the consumption. How about energy efficiency, energy saving, and working with colleague from Ministry of Industry, vehicle technology, and rail technology. All the technology is developing, which giving more energy saving. And we hope there will be growth of transportation, but the fuel consumption, we hope lesser. Now, when we talk about passenger per kilometer, we only have data in commuter line. Why we have data? Because we can record the tap in and tap out transaction. And the same goes with the BRT system. We know exactly how many passenger use the commuter line, and the same goes how many passenger of BRT. And the same, and we are now developing in cities that subsidized by Ministry of Transport or subsidized by the provincial government. We try to record the data, but it's still very in small amount. We try to find the passenger per kilometer movement and then convert it to fuel consumption, but we don't know the fleet, the overall fleet. We only have like a partial data that the local government has shared to us. Now, from all of this situation, and this is the challenge, and we're not trying to be defensive, but this is the reality. We don't have a fixed regulation about energy efficiency data collection. We don't have any legal basis. So we every month send letter to big operator, to local government to respond, and there is no mandatory requirement. It's not automatic. If we have a high level legal umbrella that each local government must share their data to Ministry of Transport, then we will have a very interesting data. If we have that regulation, we can put pressure to the local government, to the operator. And second of all, survey. The survey being done is sampling. If we do the census, it's going to be very expensive. That is why we need to have a appropriate survey method that is affordable. And the next one is about reporting system. The problem, the system is not as yet. Now we, in data information system, we have a good system. We can record all of the transaction data of the operators that are under Ministry of Transport, but it's a very small amount if we compare to the overall data across Indonesia. So this is the challenge to collect data for land transport subsector. We are still finding ways to find the most affordable method, but to generate an accurate, complete data. We're still looking for that method. And I think this is our last slide. So we will continue to perform dissemination, training, both for the operator and the local government to about how important data sharing is. Because with good data, we can develop, formulate a good policy. Even though the data is expensive, but it will be more expensive to develop policy without data. So data is expensive, but again, it will be more expensive to develop policy without any data. And next, about the person in charge. And we will continue to monitor the efficiency energy, and we need support from different stakeholders. And we have, and the last one is about regulation development. If we have a legal umbrella, and from Ministry of Environment saying that if we have enough legal umbrella, then it will be very helpful. So not all ministries have to do the same thing. Maybe we can have one leading ministry that responsible for data collection. So I think that will be all, Pak Febi. The key word is in land transport subsector. We are looking for ways with regard to number of fleet. We can work with the traffic department of the police department. We can understand the operating vehicle, and but we don't know exactly whether those vehicle database owned by the police department, whether it's still in operation or already being scrapped, because we understand the older the vehicle is, it become collectibles, and we don't have any strict regulation about age limitation of car that can operate on the road. But nonetheless, we will work very hard to collect data on fuel consumption. But at least we have sales data. But maybe we can have different approaches like sales by regional. So we are now still looking the most appropriate, affordable method to get accurate result. Okay, that will be all from my set. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Sigit. So it's quite difficult to collect data for land transport subsector. You have to request from the local government, and local government is not being responsive. And I think this is something unique in Indonesia and not happening in other countries. But let's move to Pak Wahyu Sujatmiko from the Ministry of Public Works about building. So Pak Wahyu, over to you. Okay, thank you so much. As closing this discussion. So from the public works, we see buildings as, so not only it has equipments, but also human that consume energy in houses or buildings. And what we noticed, user behavior really affect, and there is one thing that new in us, and from the R&D division of Ministry of Public Works and Housing, we have responsibility to measure energy, but in a more micro level. We are now Directorate of Technical Development, and from there move to engineering. And one of our responsibility is to produce norm, standard, procedure, including the policy. Now, in the new law, the omnibus law, law number 11, and its derivatives, its implementing rules, there is one thing that regulated in that regulation. So there is one ministerial regulation number 21, year 2021, about green buildings. So this is a living document, a regulation that will always be improved according to the situation on the ground. And that is why to update this regulation, we need data. Now, with regard to the regulation itself, so if we can move to the next slide. So in here, buildings are regulated in 4 stages, from planning, utilization, construction, utilization, and demolition. When all the green requirement must be met and fulfilled in all 4 stages. And we have mandatory and voluntary requirements. Now for the mandatory, in order to meet the green building requirements, they have to fulfill the green requirements. And all of the system are managed in online system, online single submission, or SIM-BG. So all of the data are centralized in one, all of data centralized in one system, or SIM-BG, we call it. And this is still the beginning. In the future, by requiring all building to meet the green building code, then when it becomes mandatory, then we can find the trend, how the trend will look like. But if you see in the planning stage, there are several aspects being regulated, like insulation, ventilation, efficiency planning. Now, with regard to this matter, what have been mentioned by Ibu Devi from maybe Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, they have energy survey data that can help us to develop the baseline, maybe baseline for office buildings, for industry. So maybe we can say that planning must meet the conservation standard, starting from lighting, ventilation, insulation. So, and to do that, we need also data from Ibu Devi place. What also interesting, if we can go to the next slide. Now, in here, we regulate in the planning stage, in the utilization stage, each building class, like office building class or other building class, are required to fulfill the green building requirements. And in addition to that, so if we move to the next slide, please. Now in here, there is one interesting point. When I still in the Iran Research and Development Division, when now there is the smaller sector, which is household, and if we like see what happened in Bandung, Semarang, Bekasi, and Batam with their different cold and warm, shore and mountainous. The biggest energy user for mountainous area, the biggest energy consumer, and let's say if we compare between Bandung and Bekasi, with regard to lightings, let's say for Bandung and for Bekasi, the biggest energy consumption is for air conditioner. And maybe from here, one interesting challenge in our place, why we need to collect this kind of data, because we need to be able to design a house that is efficient. And like it or not, we need to consider other aspects like air ventilation. And in this regard, we need to be able to design between hot area and mountainous area, and what will be the difference. So in principle, what we're doing is to see building as a whole, including the human behavior of the people who live in the building, and what factor whether they perform or whether they conduct energy saving or not, then we need to check their behavior. And like it or not, for hot area, and like it or not, maybe we can suggest energy saving technology for air conditioner. So this is a brief illustration from our side. What we are doing here, from here, there will be a standard on how passive system planning for occupation in Indonesia area. Indonesia that has different climate. What will be the passive requirement and also the active requirement. So I think that will be all from my side as an introduction. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Wahyu. So I'm gonna follow that up with one question. Now it seems Ministry of Public Works and Housing already use energy efficiency data to design the passive design for housing according to that data, and you have explained. And if I may know whether Ministry of Public Works and Housing have set a target with regard to energy efficiency for building, both commercial and residential building. Okay, with regard to target, we will follow the lead from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Well, to be honest, we are let's say to collect data, national data. We don't have enough resources to do that. And we will be very happy if we can get support with regard to data from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. The data that we have only for 4 cities. And if we want to collect the climate data in Indonesia, then we need to collect more from other regions. And maybe Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources see houses as collection of equipment, but we elaborate in more detail because we consider the human behavior aspect. That is why we collect the global data from ESDM. And we then try to make to find the detail of the aspect that we want to understand more. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Wahyu. Ladies and gentlemen, because we don't have that so much time left, it is almost over time. But maybe one question from my side, because from the panelists, they say they have collecting data. Some is complete, some is not yet complete, but we hope it can contribute to energy efficiency data collection from different sectors. But my question is to Mr. Acha and Ibu Devi, perhaps this is one question. Now, with that situation, whether there is a plan, is there any plan with regard to a more complete data collection for energy efficiency indicators, like mentioned by Roberta, in order to perform a more detailed analysis. Now, from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, do you have that plan already, and to what extent you have communicated this information to other relevant ministers? So maybe we can start with Pak Acha and then followed by Ibu Desi. Maybe start from Ibu Devi, then followed by me. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Fabi and Acha. From our side, we have plan actually that's supported by IEA for benchmarking. Then automatically it will go to the energy efficiency in textile sector, in the textile subsector, and then through Danish Energy Agency working with Denmark in the F&B sector. And we also have cooperation with the Japanese and working with Mr. Taufik's place for cement and fertilizer, if I'm not mistaken. So that will be all, Fabi. But for now, for commercial buildings, there should be agreement among different stakeholders who are expert in buildings with regard to energy consumption intensity in commercial building. Even though we have the data that we have collected through M3 UNDP support and also supported by Building and Engineer Association. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Go ahead, Pak Acha. So in Ibu Dewi's place, with different efforts to collect more detailed data. And we from the Data Information Center as the catalyst to collect from Pak Taufik's place, from Pak Wahyu's place, and from Pak Sigit with Indonesia single data, and then we will integrate all of the system that we have here. And from the Data and Information Center, we'll perform analysis, yeah, Fabi. And the analysis requirement is quite big. So we understand the energy supply side and the detail, as mentioned by Wahyu, it hasn't covered everything. And Pak Sigit echo that, including the one that happened in transportation sector. And that only for public transport. If we have a private vehicle, we will never report how many energy usage that we have. So after we understand the detail, and then we will extrapolate it, and then we escalate to the macro level, and the control is the energy supply. So I think that will be all from my side. And after this, we can have inter-system connection with gentlemen from the Industry and Public Works Ministry. Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, all of the panelists, Gus, Devi, Sigit, Wahyu, and Ahmad Taufik. I actually would like to have a longer discussion because I am passionate with energy efficiency, but we don't have any time left, so I need to end very soon. And what can be take away? So data collection for energy efficiency in Indonesia need to be done to measure the indicators, and it's not something easy. So Indonesia must be creative, if I can say, and therefore the technical support provided by development partners like EAI, from Danida, UNDP, and so on and so forth, can help to fast track to expedite the data collection process. And once you get, say, one thing that we need to contemplate, which is regulation that can bind. So we need to have a legal umbrella. And I remember government regulation number 70 year 2009 about energy conservation. And because I was participate in the drafting of that government regulation. So this is as an input. If it's mandatory to have data that can reach the region, it's actually doable. And several sector is under the supervision of region. So the city or provincial government can help to expedite the complete data as the energy efficiency indicator in Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank you for your active participation, and my apologies for any shortcomings in moderating the discussion. Once again, stay well, good afternoon, and over to you, Ibu Dian, or our MC. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Fabi. You have led the panel discussion, and I would like to thank all of the panelists for sharing a very important information about data of energy efficiency in Indonesia. And I believe this is very important. I hope it brings benefit to all of us. Now, at the end of our session, I would like to invite Miss Melanie Stay, Senior Program Manager, IEA, to deliver the closing remarks. Miss Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Pak Fabi, for that great facilitation, and to all of our speakers on the panel. I think this conversation shows us just how much is going on in terms of end-use data collection. And if we coordinate well, then there's a much richer source of information there than perhaps anybody imagines if they just look at their piece of the puzzle. So what we'd love to be able to do is work with you all to coordinate this, map what's where, see what indicators are most important, see what's missing, and see if we can help come up with a plan for filling the gaps, but in a very practical way. I think a few kind of takeaways for me were, Roberta talked about the cost to Australia of investing in energy infrastructure, which was not necessary because of the poor quality of data. It's not a cost-free process, but it's very costly if it's not done well. So I think that's a really important reminder to us when we think this is all too hard, that we have to really work at this. We at the IEA would love to work with you all so that Indonesia can join the 44 countries that Roberta mentioned, where we have published energy efficiency indicators. It would be absolutely wonderful to be able to work with Indonesia to become part of that group. And it doesn't have to be everything. It could be, we could work on some sectors to start that process. It doesn't have to be completely comprehensive. So that's what we'd like to do. And the kind of next steps in that process, we'd like to ask everybody who's been on this call, there've been more than 200 people on this call, please go and do the courses. Please recommend them to people that you know who have data or are interested in data. Please ask your teams and your colleagues. And then later in the year, we'll come back and set up some sector-specific webinars so that we can work together on very detailed data, very detailed benchmarking, where is the data, what's missing, and try and build some indicators for some more specific sectors. And as Ibu Devi said, we plan to start with some of the slightly less energy intensive industry sectors that are very important to Indonesia in terms of particularly jobs and growth in GDP. So things like textiles, pulp and paper, working with Denmark, hopefully food and beverage. And also we'd like to, in a separate strand, help work on the transport data too, particularly the road transport. So this is the beginning of a series of webinars, but to make those future ones really valuable, what would be great is if people can take those courses. So that's what I'd like to encourage everybody to do. So just finally, thank you everybody for your contributions today. Thank you to the team at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Thank you to Fabi for his presentation, to all the speakers. And Diane, thank you very much for your emceeing of the event for us today. Thank you all.
Thank you to Miss Melanie. Baik, demikianlah webinar peluncuran kursus online.
So that concludes the webinar of the Energy Efficiency Indicator online course launching. We invite you to take the online course. You can access it using the link that we share in the chat box. So for your active participation and attendance, we would like to thank you, and we remind you to continuously implement a strict COVID-19 health protocol. Stay safe, stay healthy. So I will end the webinar. Me as the MC, I would like to thank you all and greetings until we meet again. Have a nice day.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih. Alhamdulillah. Thank you Mel and AE team. Makasih ya Mbak Dian.
Sama-sama Ibu Devi, suaranya mantap.
Di kayak gini deh, udah ditaruh di sini. Alhamdulillah udah lancar. Makasih banget Mbak. Ayo Mbak, saya live dulu. Mari.
Devi.